Hello and welcome to this week's live masterclass. So from now on, I am going to give these masterclasses every single week because I just want to give you more tips and tools on how to use astrology as a strategy, both in your business, but also in your personal life. Because for a lot of people, it feels like this really difficult, big thing to implement into your life and business, but actually it's really, really easy. And this week we're kicking off with what if you dislike planning? The reason why I start with this topic is because this is the question I get asked the most. When I talk about planning, when I talk about doing things in a strategic way, a lot of people back out and say, well, I'm not really good at planning, or I don't like to plan, or when I plan, I feel like I have no creativity left. There's nothing going on. I see Sandra's here. Hi. But it's really actually the opposite. And that's what I want to teach you today, how you can use this in an efficient way in your business and in your life so that planning doesn't feel like this huge thing that you're not good at, and it's really easy to implement this. Now, I have to say there are some people who are naturally better at planning. Talking to you, Virgos, it is much easier for them to just focus on the planning, make a planning, stick to it. Also, the Capricorns, by the way, they're also really good at that. But that doesn't mean that if you're not a Virgo or a Capricorn, that you cannot plan or you shouldn't even try. Now, I know most people that run their own businesses, they understand why they should make a planning, because it shouldn't just be about what you do today, but what you do today has to serve your longer term vision. And if you keep that in the back of your mind, every day when you sit down behind your computer, do your things, what is it that you're working towards? So if you followed my scheduling workshop on 2020, last year, if you followed that, you know that creating this bigger vision and then coming back from that and putting it into actionable, achievable steps is really important. So if you know what your bigger vision for 2020 is, or maybe even your longer term vision for the next 5 to 10 years, that is great. But then you still need to put those things in action, because having a vision doesn't get you there. And even if you're very determined to get to that vision, you still need to take action. And you've probably heard people say, and me say, that consistency is key. And if you want your business to be consistent, if you want your content to be consistent, you need to make a planning. But where it goes wrong, and why a lot of people feel sort of a resistance against planning, is simply because they think planning in a very linear way. Now, we as women, we don't think in a linear way. We think in a cyclical way. So if you're trying to force yourself to show up every single Monday to do exactly the same task, and every Tuesday do exactly the same task, you probably will notice that that doesn't work. You probably know that one day it goes really well. Let's say if you're writing blogs or creating content, some days are like really, really good, and other days, nothing comes out of your hands. And this is because we're so taught in a masculine way of working that we need to show up every single day exactly the same, because that's what men can actually do, because their hormonal cycle is only 24 hours. So they are able to do the same thing every single day and have similar results. But we as women, we have a cycle that is 28 days on average. Now, if you start looking at that, you start to understand that because of our hormonal changes, we will never, ever be able to show up the same every single day, week after week, month after month. We go through different cycles and phases, but also we go through different seasons. And the reason why this is important when it comes to planning is if you know what season you're in your business, excuse me, but also in your life. Sorry about that. If you know where you are at, you know what is possible. So for instance, for me, November and December were very hard. Well, they weren't hard, but if you consider the output, I wasn't putting out a lot of content. I wasn't putting out a lot of things because I wasn't feeling like putting myself out there too much, because I was going through my internal winter. Also first trimester of pregnancy, but it also was, I didn't feel the urge to step out. Now, this is the balance that we all have to, hi Susan, this is the balance we all have to find between honoring what we feel and at the same time knowing that it's okay to not put out that much or to not be that visible yourself. So it's really a fine balance for you to find where is it where I can listen to my body and just let go of the concept of what I think I should be doing. Like I said, we're taught to show up every single day the same, to just put out our content, be visible all the time. But that's not always how it works. So if you know that you are going through your internal winter, you're not going to be visible every single day. And this is where planning comes in. So when you know you are going through a period where you are lower on energy, if you plan that ahead, because you know those phases are coming, if you track what is going on in your body, if you track what kind of season you're in right now, you will know what kind of season you're in next. And that doesn't always go exactly the same as the seasons of nature. So you don't have to be in winter right now, because personally right now I'm in my summer. It's in the middle of the winter. But if you know that that is happening, you can plan ahead. So if you know you're in your summer, use all of that energy to really create a lot of content. If you feel this burst of creativity, this urge to do more, to create more, then use that. So you have batched a lot of things. So when you are going through your fall and then your winter phase, then you're able to scale back. But you're still putting out content. You're still visible, but not so much your face. Like I wasn't doing any Facebook Lives in November and December, and that was fine. Susan says, totally me right now, internal winter. Yes. Totally surrender to that. Do the things that are then necessary to keep your business running. But apart from that, make sure that if you know that a period like that is coming and you can see that it is coming, so it's not like it will catch you by surprise. Sometimes it does a little bit. But if you make a habit out of tracking it and following it, and this is very closely related to your cycle. So if you start tracking that and know when you have the periods where you need to rest, periods where where you're gonna have more creativity, periods where you're more in the evaluation phase, then it's really good to use that. Now, I know a lot of people that say, if I plan too much, I'm not creative anymore. But actually, it usually is the opposite. Because I was one of those people who always thought, no. If I plan too much, then there will be no space left for any creativity. It actually works the opposite way. Because if you don't have a planning, you don't have a structure within you can create. So then every day is sort of a little bit of a, I do my work, but there's not really a strategy behind it. So I just create content, I talk with my customers, I have sessions with my clients, but this not really thought through strategy behind your business. If you have a strategy, if you have a planning when to do what, you actually become creative, because that frees up the space that otherwise you will be thinking about I kind of should have a strategy. I kind of should know what I'm doing, but I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So all of these doubts, these fears, these insecurities that you feel around where is my business exactly going actually robs you from your creativity. When you have a plan, and I don't mean from day to day, hour to hour, exactly what needs to get done, but if you know, at least as a start, know what your main focus is on that quarter is, then it will also become easier to know what is the main focus of that month. And if you just have one focus, that doesn't mean that you're not creating content at all, but everything else that you do, is it creating new programs? Maybe it is launching a new program. It is setting something completely new up. It should only be one of those. Or two. Depends a little bit how driven you are and how much time you have in your business. But the focus should be around one topic. This goes throughout the year, but also for the quarters. And then you distill it from month to month. And then each month you just look at, okay, so what am I doing today? Besides your client calls, besides maybe the calls with your team, what is it that you can focus on this month? So there's less distraction. Even though you have creative ideas, you can put them on your calendar for maybe next month or for the next quarter. And then it helps you to stay focused and less distracted. Because I know some of you who are watching here are always getting a lot of ideas and always have these amazing new ideas, which is great, but it also distracts you. Sometimes you need the idea to rest on the shelf a little bit. That either makes the idea grow bigger and your vision bigger, or you realize, well, that was a really interesting idea that might work, but that's not in alignment with my bigger vision. So that way it also becomes much easier to weigh whether this is worth pursuing or not. So it is really important for you to really go through what it is that I'm focusing on, what are my priorities, and how can I stick to my priorities. Wendy says, yeah, since I put more focus, I have so much more flow. That's it. Because if you focus and you take all of the distraction away, also the distraction of planning, and that's why I really want to do this masterclass, to show you how important it is to have this planning. It could be long-term, it could be short-term, but the idea is that you, Wendy said, you can call me by my name. I know, Wendy, you have a ton of ideas and they're always really good, but they can be a little bit distracting. So if you know what your focus is, it actually makes you more creative, because then within your focus point, you become more creative. So there's not a lot of wandering around, getting distracted, seeing this beautiful new shiny object and then that shiny object, and they're all shiny and they're all good. But they're not always in your highest interest. They're not always in the best interest of your business and of you. And this comes back to managing your energy. It is so important to stay with your own energy. And if you know what kind of season that you're going through, your business could, by the way, be in a completely different season. That is okay too. But you have to know, because you can only spend your energy once. So if you know and understand, okay, so this is the season I'm in. This is also the phase of my cycle that I'm in. I mean, some people, they prefer not to schedule any appointments with their clients on the first few days of their menstrual cycle, of their menstrual phase, simply because they know they'll be drained. And they won't be able to show up in a way that they want to show up for their clients. And this is a really good way to honor your energy, but also to honor the way that you deliver, the way that you show up. You guarantee that you show up the fullest and really as yourself by leaving those days free for yourself to rest, to contemplate, to really take a moment to not get too distracted. Susan says, oh, that's me too. Shiny object syndrome. Yes, well, we all have that. Like everybody in some degree have this shiny object syndrome where we think that is really cool. Or we see another business owner launching something in a completely unique way and think that is really interesting. I might try that. But what if you're already in the middle of putting together your launch? You shouldn't just leave that, abandon that, and then start all over again. Feel within your body how it feels, and allow yourself to make a schedule, to make a plan according to your energy. Because what someone else is doing might not work for you, or actually it doesn't work for you. You need to find your unique sauce, your unique way of doing things, and where to start is with yourself. And there are amazing marketing strategies out there, which are, by the way, mostly made by men. That's why we can't really stick to them. But they all start from a very linear point, and they just start with very practical steps. Now, I'm all for practical steps, but before we can take those practical steps, we need to come back and think about our energy. And yes, Susan, we can only spend it once. So if we have spent our energy on worrying about that new shiny marketing strategy that we see, it's gone. And if that is in a week where you have very little energy, you feel drained. And even if you're in a week where you usually have high energy, but now feel drained, it's good to trace your steps and think, what did I do that drained me? What is it that caused me to feel tired, to feel uninspired? Also check the moon, because the moon has a big influence in that as well. So you can just follow me on my channels and you will see what is happening with the moon. Or you can subscribe to my newsletter where you get the video and the PDF file with the new and the full moons and all the other aspects that are happening each month. So you know ahead what is happening, when it's happening, and how you can prepare yourself for this. Because astrology is not to be used as an excuse saying, oh, but it was the full moon, so I did not have a mood to put anything out there. Instead, it works as knowing that there will be a full moon, and maybe you're very, very affected by full moons, that your emotions get really, really high, which by the way is most people. If you know that, you plan ahead. You make sure that within your business, but also in your life, that you have the support around you to maybe take a few hours off around the full moon so you can become quiet with yourself. You don't have to be around a lot of other people to really go within for a moment. If you know that more and more, if you start to track that more and more, you can base your planning on knowing what is happening with your own cycle and with the lunar cycle. And the more you tune into that, the more you surrender to that. So don't blame on, but surrender, which is very different. The more you surrender to that, the easier it is for you to also stick to your planning, because you set it up in a very realistic way. And the reason why I said only pick one subject or only one focus each month or each quarter, depending what works best for you, is so that you can really focus on that and have the flexibility when one day or maybe a whole week is not going as planned. Like, for instance, last week leading up to the new moon was quite a bit of a rocky time. So if you feel that is happening, you have one focus. So it's not like you missed your deadline. It's not like you missed the opportunity to focus on that, because that whole month is about that topic. So 1 week is not completely lost. it should be spent on contemplation, of going through the resistance, feeling why these things are coming up, because they're coming up for a reason. But if you don't have any space in your schedule to look at it, to sit with it, it's just going to drag. And then it's just not going to be 1 week, then it's going to be the next and the next, and you're just going to drag it through instead of facing it the moment it comes up. Which sounds like a contradiction if you make a planning, because you might think like, wait, I don't have time because I have that planning to focus on. That's because your planning should be fluid. Your planning should be able to move with these currents. And that if something doesn't happen 1 week, it will happen the next. As long as you know what are your vital few, so what are the things that have to get done each and every week and cannot be skipped. If those are done, those are your top priorities. And at the same time, you focus on that one goal that you have in mind. That was really all that I wanted to give to you today in this masterclass. I don't want to bombard you with more information. I have much more to tell you, much more to share with you, but I just want to leave it with that. And if you have any more questions, if there's something that came up for you where you are wondering how it works or how you can include different things in your planning, please let me know. I'm just going to stick around for a little bit longer, see if anything comes up. So planning is not really a complicated thing. Planning should be very intuitive. And then from that intuitive place, you turn it into more practical. Instead of looking at the practical and think, how can I shuffle things around so they kind of fit in my energy? You think, this is my energy, this is what I can work with, and this is the practical stuff that needs to fit in those boxes. Actually, not really boxes. More like fluid rivers. So what can you put in each river? How can you put your more practical tasks in each and every one of those rivers? So like I said, if you want to make sure that you start the month knowing what is happening with the moon, know what's happening with the other planets, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter, and you automatically at the beginning of the month, you will get the video and you'll get a PDF file with all of the new moons, the full moons, the Mercury retrogrades, because we have one coming up next month, and what is happening. So you can think about it when you plan. So for instance, Mercury retrograde is not the best time to launch anything new. Now, for some people, depending on their personal chart, it actually might be an interesting way. But for most people, Mercury retrograde, back off a little bit. It's not the good time to be that forward. It's more a time to go inwards. So I will put the link below where you can sign up for the newsletter. And for now, I just want to wish you a fantastic day. And next week, I will be back with another masterclass for you.